Hello students, so welcome to Vinay's Academy online coaching class. Actually we would be together on this teaching learning process, but you know about this COVID and I hope all are doing well. So my name is Amrita and I'll be covering some of the topics on chemistry as well as biology. So let us begin today's session. As you are new to this 10th standard syllabus, so let me brief you up with some of the chapters associated with your NCERT chemistry textbook, the science textbook. So what are the chemistry topics right now or the whole academic year you are going to study? We'll take a look on that first and then we will move on to the topic. We'll learn something today. Okay, so altogether you have to learn 5 chapters in the chemistry part. So let me quickly write down all the chapters for you and then one by one let me brief you up with some introductory part of the chapters, okay? Okay, so these are the 5 topics or chapters that you will be studying this academic year, and I hope you are thorough with a few concepts which you have learnt already in your lower classes. Based on some previous knowledge, the extended version, that is a bit higher level, is covered in these chapters, okay? So first of all, the chemical reactions, and this chapter is mainly based on how to frame equations. So far you might have seen a number of reactions or the equations or the chemical reaction that takes place. You might have seen certain equations. So in this chapter we are going to learn how we are going to write a chemical equation and what are the rules required to write a balanced chemical equation, okay? So in this chapter you will be studying about the equation as well as how to balance, right? Okay, so next chapter, that is about the acids, base and salts. So you are very familiar with these terms, that is acid, base as well as salts. So here you will be studying about the characteristics in detail of acids, then bases and also of salts. What are these acids? How are they formed? What kind of ions are formed in the acids? I hope you know what is an ion and what are the ions present in a base, and you also know about the neutralization process, that when acids and bases will combine it forms into salts, isn't it? So we are going to learn some of the reactions based on the reaction of acids with some of the other substances or the reaction of bases with some substances as well as the salts over here. And another most important thing you will be learning once you get to know about the acid, base and salts is about the pH scale. I hope you know what is a pH. pH stands for power of hydrogen. So pH is very necessary. The study of pH scale is very necessary because it is even being used in our day-to-day life, right? If you have to see the quality of the soil, then you require a pH scale. If you have to see the quality of water, then you require the pH scale. I hope you have an idea about this pH scale rating from 0 to 14, where 7 stands neutral, isn't it? So acidic and basic ratings, what are those, and how it is going to be applied in our day-to-day life. Now for example, if you consider the digestive system, so whatever we eat, it's being digested in the stomach, right? There we find one particular acid. I hope you know that is HCl, right? So the pH of the HCl, it is lower actually in the stomach, but it may increase or decrease. That is why we say acidity, isn't it? So there also the pH of the HCl can vary, right? So that you are going to study in the chapter acids, base and salts. So it's a very interesting chapter. And then we have metals and non-metals. You have studied this in your lower classes, the difference between metals and non-metals and certain reactions based on them. Okay, so what happens if metal reacts with water, or what happens with the non-metals reaction with some of the acids? All these you are going to study in this chapter. Okay, the next one is carbon and its compounds. All right. So carbon, it is said to be a very friendly element, all right, because it combines itself, or it links its own atoms along with the other atoms. Maybe you can call it as formation of organic compounds, okay, and it is having a wide range of application, and you have study based on this carbon compounds, that is called as organic chemistry. Okay, so study of carbons is quite interesting, and you will be studying about the different families, about certain series of the family of the carbon atoms and how they interact with the other elements. Carbon, the next topic is, it is the periodic table, you know. Carbon, where it comes in the periodic table, because first to 20 elements you have to be thorough about in the periodic table. So you know that carbon, it comes in the 6th place, so its atomic number is 6, and I hope you know how to write the electronic configuration. So if it is 6, then we write it as 2, 4, right? Or if you have studied in the form of 1s2, 2s2, then you write it in that manner, right? So there are 4 electrons in the outermost shell. If you draw the atom of a carbon, right, let me show you. So you know this is an atom, and this can be called a nucleus, right? This is a nucleus. So since the atomic number of carbon is 6, then its configuration stands for 2, 4, right? So here we have 2 electrons in the first shell. So you know the names of different shells present in an atom: K shell, L shell, M shell, N shell, and so on, right? So the first shell is K shell, which always consists of 2 electrons, and the next shell consists of four electrons, right? 4 electrons. So that's what I said. Carbon in its outermost shell is having 4 electrons. So if you know, you have studied the valencies. The knowledge of valency is very important. You have to keep on practicing then and then. Then only you will be able to write a perfect formula, chemical formula, only with the knowledge of the valency. Okay, I am going to revise that once I finish dealing with all these 5 concepts. Okay, so now, since carbon is having 4 atoms in the outermost shell, it is having a valency 4. We call it as C4 minus, carbide, C4 minus. carbide. Okay, so this particular element which is having a valency 4, it is having a very unique nature, so we call it as tetravalency. So that's why I said carbon is said to be a very friendly element, because it links with other carbon atoms, that is neighboring carbon atoms, and also with the other atoms, so that it can be formed into a group, or it can be formed into a compound, a family, that is what we call as organic compound. So in this we will be studying about the most important feature of carbon, and also about its properties, and along with that some of its families, and also particularly the reactions based on that. Okay, so the next one is the periodic classification of elements. So this is regarding the periodic table. You are already familiar with our modern periodic table of elements, and as I already told you, the first 20 elements, 1 to 20, all the 20 elements, it should be at the tip of your tongue whenever it is asked, because it's very important. You must be knowing all the elementary properties of at least few elements amongst them, and the valencies of all the elements you must be knowing, and also some of the features. Okay, so that we will be studying in this periodic classification of elements as to how the periodic table was discovered. So right now we are studying about the modern periodic table, and it consists of 118 elements, but earlier it was not so. Very few elements were known. So this discovery, from there it begins. So that we are going to study how it was discovered, who are the scientists who have contributed in this field, and how it was successfully helped in the study of chemistry, mainly the periodic table and the knowledge of the elements. With the knowledge of the elements, we can prepare certain compounds, isn't it? So we can say that periodic table is the main base for the study of chemistry. Alright children, so now these are the topics that you will be studying. One by one we will learn the concepts from each chapter. Okay, so all the chapters are easy if you understand. First of all, that's what I said, you must have the thorough knowledge of the periodic table as well as the thorough knowledge of the valency. Okay, only then it will be easy for you all to frame a particular formula using the chemical formula to write a proper balanced equation. Okay, so once you are very much thorough with that, then all these are very simple. If you understand, you can score well. Alright, so today let me take up the first chapter, that is the chemical reactions and equations. Alright, but before that, let us recall what you have studied in your lower classes, or maybe you have studied in 9th standard about the elements as well as their valency, because once you recall all the valencies of the elements, then it will be helpful for you all, because a lot of time gap, and I hope you have not forgotten the valencies. Children, you have to keep on practicing them. Alright, so let us begin. Alright, so as I already mentioned about the periodic table, the 1 to 20, the first 20 elements, let me write it here so that even you can recall what you have studied. Okay, so let me write the atomic number first and then the elements. Okay, so these are the atomic numbers of the first 20 elements that I told you all. So let me write the elements. So I will write the symbols. Okay, you have already studied about the elements and the symbols, right? So the first element is hydrogen with the symbol H. Okay, second element, it is a noble gas, helium, written as H and E. Always while we write the symbols, if there are two letters, the first letter will be a capital letter and the second one will be the small letter. Okay. Then we have lithium, capital L and small I, and then the 4, atomic number 4 stands for beryllium, Be. And then we have the fifth element, boron. Then just now we had a look on this element, that is carbon with atomic number 6. Okay, carbon. Then we have nitrogen, oxygen, fluorine. Its symbol is F. Fluorine, neon. So this is also a noble gas. Okay, neon. And then we have sodium with the symbol Na. Then it is magnesium, aluminium, silicon, phosphorus, sulfur. Sulfur is yes. 17th one, that is chlorine. Then we have argon. Okay, writing R in this way, it is better instead of writing R like this. Okay, so you have a practice of writing R like this, especially when you write the formulas along with the symbols. Okay, R should be written in this manner and not like this. Make a note of it. Okay, so then we have potassium, that is K. Also we have this Latin name, that is kalium, you know that. And then it is calcium finally. Okay, so I have written all the 1 to 20 elements here. So you must have the knowledge of all these 20 elements. You must remember in series. Okay, you must remember how to write them in order, because only if you learn them in order, if some atomic number is asked in between, then you will be able to recall its atomic number. Okay, and also about its electronic configuration. So you know about these shells and their subshells having K, L, M, N and all. So K shell is having a maximum of 2 electrons and remaining other shells can have only a capacity of holding 8 electrons in its outermost shell. And here while writing, I have also mentioned about noble gases, right? So here we are having three noble gases. Amongst 1 to 20 elements, we have 3 noble gases. So the most important feature of these noble gases is that it is always considered to be having a stable electronic configuration. It is always having completely filled electrons in its outermost shell. So let me write one example for you with an atom of neon, alright. So neon is 10, atomic number 10. So if I have to write the electronic configuration of neon, then it will be 2, 8. Okay, 2 is K shell and 8 electrons for L shell. Okay, and here you can make out that there are only 8 electrons in the outermost shell and it is completely filled electrons. See, why I am teaching you this once again is, once if you recall, okay, because now the holidays, I don't know how much you remember all this long gap, right? So once you come back, you go through all these things and then you will feel fresh. We can restart the chemistry concepts with the previous knowledge recreated. Okay, so now the last shell is having 8 electrons. So let me write the electrons. The first shell is having 2 electrons here. And then we have 8 electrons. Okay, so you can see that here the shell is having completely filled 8 electrons. So that's what I said, that the outermost shell of any atom, if it is completely filled, that happens only in case of noble gases, because that is the most important property of the noble gas, that is said to be stable. Okay, they are non-reactive, they do not react with any other atom. So you might not have found any chemical formula which is linked with the noble gas. Okay, they always tend to be stable, and they are unreactive, and also they are inert, we say. Okay, they are inert gases. They always show direction to the other atoms which are not having stable electronic configuration. So they are the other, here what you can see, all the other elements are not having any stable electronic configuration. They always try to follow the nearest noble gas. Now for example, we have helium. Okay, so hydrogen, lithium, beryllium, all these try to follow helium, the nearest noble gas. Then on the remaining elements, they try to follow the nearest noble gas, neon. Okay, I have not written this in the format of the periodic table, because you have not you don't have the thorough knowledge of this periodic table. So once we learn about that, then we can easily write it in the format of the periodic table itself. Okay, because you have to know more about that. So here I have written in just a simple way with the atomic number as well as the element. So for today, I just wanted to make you recall about the elements, and also very particularly the valency of the elements, because only valency can help you in writing formula, which is very important for us to understand the first chapter, that is chemical equations, the chemical reactions. So if there is any reaction, then you must know what type of chemical compound should be used, and to write the chemical compound you must know its formula. For the formula you must know what are the elements included in that, how many atoms of each element should be included, and what is the valency of each element which forms into a compound. Okay, all right. So I hope you have made a note of all these 20 elements. I hope you have taken down. Now let me pick a few elements, okay, and then we will recall, or once we will try to learn how to find each one's valency. Okay, let me give you example of a few elements over here, how to easily know its valency. Other than that, in your lower classes, if you have studied, you can go through that valency chart. Okay. Now let me pick up the element sodium. Okay. So let me take up this element sodium. So as you know, sodium is having an electronic configuration. So you can find out its electronic configuration only with its atomic number. So the atomic number of sodium is 11, and if you know to write the electronic configuration, right? So now sodium is having 3 shells actually. Let us fill and then we will get to know. Always the first shell, the K shell, will have 2 electrons, right? It has 2 electrons, alright. Then the next shell should have a maximum of 8 electrons. So 2 and 8 altogether it becomes 10, right? Then because it is 11, we need one more electron, it should be 11. So 2, 8, then we go to the next shell, that is, so we have 1 electron there. So 2, 8, 1. Okay, we have 3 shells here with the electronic configuration of 2, 8, 1. Okay. Now, how to find its valency with the help of the electronic configuration of the particular element. Alright. So now you have to see the outermost shell here. I need not draw again an atom, right? You can visualize one atom where it has 3 shells. In the first shell there are 2 electrons in the orbit, first orbit. 8 electrons in the second orbit and 1 electron in the outermost orbit. So you have to focus on the outermost orbit. Alright, so already I have told you about the noble gases. Noble gases, they have stable configuration. That is, they have 8 electrons. There is one exception in that, that is helium. Okay, so helium's atomic number is 2 and it is having 2 electrons. So 2 itself fits in the first shell, isn't it? So helium is having only one shell, so its electronic configuration is just 2 because it has only one shell, that is K, and it is stable, either 2 or it is 8, the stable configuration we say. So in the whole periodic table, helium, a noble gas helium. So if you want, you can check on the periodic table and you can see that the first element in the column of the noble gases, that is helium, but the unique feature of helium from the other noble gases, like we have neon, argon, if you see, then you have xenon, krypton, radon and all. So amongst that, the most peculiar property of this helium is that it is having only 2 electrons in the outermost shell and it is considered stable. That is why we call this type of configuration as a duplet configuration, duplet 2. And if it is stable, having 8 electrons in the outermost shell, then we call it as octet. 8 electrons, so 8 stands for octa. So we call it as octet electronic configuration. This is just for your information. Okay, fine. So I was telling about the electronic configuration of sodium, that is 2, 8, 1. Now concentrate only on the outermost shell. Okay, so outermost shell is having 1 electron. So why we are learning this is to find its valency, so that it will be helpful for you all to find the valency of other 1 to 20 elements. In case you don't remember the valency immediately, you can go for this method and find the valency of that particular element. Okay, now the outermost shell is 1, electron is 1 here. So if you see sodium, it is very close to the noble gas neon, right? And neon is having a configuration of 2,8, right? That is, its atomic number is 10. Its configuration is 2,8. So always the elements which are close to the noble gases, they always follow their leader. The leader is the noble gas itself. So they try to follow the configuration of the noble gas, right? So sodium even wants to be stable just like neon, alright. So that is why it tends to lose that one extra electron what it has, alright. So in order to form into an ion, alright, ion. So if you have heard this earlier, let me just tell you that ions, they are the charged particles, okay, they are charged particles. We call them as cations and anions. Cations, they are positively charged particles and anions are the negatively charged particles. So sodium, if it tends to lose 1 electron from its outermost shell, then we can call it as, so let me write it here and show it to you. So sodium wants to be stable like neon, so it tends to lose 1 electron. So I can show it as, it loses 1 electron and then on losing 1 electron, it becomes sodium cation, Na plus, or I can also call it as Na1 plus, Na plus or Na1 plus. Okay, so that is about sodium. So now sodium becomes Na plus. So what you have studied, I hope you can remember, the valency of sodium is Na1 plus. And how you got that valency is because sodium lost 1 electron from its outermost shell. Okay, then let us take some other example now of nitrogen. Okay, let me take the example of nitrogen. So you know the atomic number 7 and its electronic configuration, let us write, it is 2,5, okay, 2,5. So it is having 5 electrons in its outermost shell because it is split 7 electrons. First shell can have only 2 electrons, remaining 5, so that goes to the next shell, L shell. So this is not stable because it is having 5 electrons, it is unstable. Now this wants to be stable just like its nearest noble gas. The nearest noble gas is again neon. So it wants to follow the configuration of neon. It wants to be 2,8. Okay. So if it wants to be 2,8 but it's only 2,5. So if it is 2,5, how many electrons it requires to become stable? That is 3 electrons, right? So nitrogen, sodium lost its extra electron, it became stable. But nitrogen gains, it wants 3 electrons. So we will write it as added 3 electrons plus 3 electrons, and then its valency is N3 minus. So this also you have studied, the valency of a nitride. Nitride is N3 minus, isn't it? So nitride valency, alright. So similarly chlorine. Chlorine, where is chlorine? Here. It is a 17th element having a electronic configuration of 2,8,7. Correct? First shell is having 2 electrons. Second shell can have only 8 electrons, and third shell KLM, M shell has remaining electrons, so 7 electrons. So it is one step or 1 electron shortage to form into a stable electron or to have a stable electronic configuration. So chlorine follows the very close by friend of it, isn't it? The argon, isn't it? So it wants to follow the stable configuration of argon. It also wants to become 2,8,8. So in that way it will gain 1 electron, right? So I can write it as Cl plus 1 electron, it forms Cl1 minus. So you know that chloride, we call it as chloride, that is Cl minus. So like this, remaining elements also with the knowledge of atomic number and also with the knowledge of its electronic configuration. So once you write the electronic configuration, just see the outermost shell, the last shell electron, how many electrons are there, just find out its nearest noble gas and see whether it is in a need of electrons or whether it wants to lose the electrons to become stable. So if it wants to lose the electron, then it becomes a cation, and if it wants to gain the electron, then we can call it as an anion. Okay, this is how we can frame the valencies of particular elements. So other than that, you might also have studied about the valency of certain radical. There is this ion and radical. These two are studied under the same concept. Okay, ions, as I told you, they are the charged particles. So one atom losing or gaining the electron, forming into a positive or negative ion. Okay, but in some cases, like for example, if you know sulfate, okay, sulfate, let me write it here. Okay, sulfate, it is an ion. I call it as a radical because sulfate is usually written as SO4 2 minus. 2 minus is its valency. But so far what you saw is one atom forming into an ion. But here you can see a mixture of one atom of sulfur and 4 atoms of oxygen. And that together combines forming into a sulfate with a valency 2 minus. So in this case what happens is different atoms combine, but they behave like a single unit. Okay, they behave as one, the negative ion, SO4 2 minus. So if a group of atoms combine and form into a single unit, then we call it as a radical. So sulfate is a radical, nitrate, NO3 1 minus, nitrate. Okay, so like this, if you come across any of the valencies where the radicals, or that means where the formula is in the combined form with one valency, then you can call it as a radical. Okay, a group of atoms behaving as a single unit, right? So this is what I wanted to make you understand once before I start the concept. Okay, so I hope you understood how to find the valencies. So you can try finding the valency of the rest of the elements also in the same method of using electronic configuration. Otherwise you have to learn the valency chart, all the valencies you have to remember. In case you are not able to recall the valency of particular elements, then you can go for this method. Okay, fine. So students, so now using the knowledge of the valency as well as the symbols, let us now find out some of the chemical formulas as well, because then and then we will be using certain formulas in order to frame certain equations. So let me write the name of the first chapter, that is chemical reactions and equations. Okay, so this is the first chapter that we are going to study, chemical reactions and equations. So now, before we move on to the concepts of this chapter, let us recall how to write the molecular formula. As I already told you, formula can only be written if you have a thorough knowledge of the valencies of particular atoms, right? Either it is in the form of ion or it is in the form of a radical, right? So here in this concept, let me take a few examples of molecular formula. We will quickly recall how to write the formulas using the valency, and then we will directly move on to the concepts of this chapter. Okay, so then by today's session you will be recalling all the concepts that you have studied in your lower classes, right? Maybe it is regarding the symbols you have studied today. We have written some of the symbols of the elements. We have also learnt the elements from 1 to 20 of the periodic table, its atomic number, how to write their electronic configuration, and how to frame a valency using electronic configuration. Now that you know how to find a valency, now using the valency, let us write few chemical formulas. Okay, so since it is the first session today, I am not going very much deep into the chapter. I just wanted you to recall few of the concepts before that, so that it will be very much helpful in our teaching learning process. Okay. Okay, so you can take down this and make a list of the formulas later for revision sake it will be helpful. Okay, so let us try to write a few formulas of the compounds what I have mentioned here. Okay, so I have written the name of the compounds. We will convert it into the symbolic form, that is writing its formula, but before that we must also know the valency. Okay, so let me take up the first compound, that is sodium sulfate. Okay, so sodium sulfate, it's having sodium as well as sulfate in it. So sodium, you know the symbol of sodium to be written is Na, and then you know the valency of sodium, so that is Na1 plus, right? Sodium is Na1 plus. Sulfate is SO4 2 minus, so that is the valency of a sulfate, SO4 2 minus. Already we discussed about that. So here this will be called an ion and this is a radical, because you can see one atom here. Here there is one atom of sulfur and 4 atoms of oxygen. Alright. So now you have to crisscross. We call it as a crisscross method in writing a chemical formula. So crisscross the valencies, this comes here. So finally the formula is Na2SO4. So the chemical formula of sodium sulfate will be Na2SO4. The most common mistake is not writing 2 over here. Okay, most of the children write it as NaSO4, which is wrong. You must you should know the valency of sulfate properly there. It is SO4 2 minus. So it becomes Na2SO4. Okay. So one more similar mistake happens also in this compound. So this also we will learn. Okay. So next one is potassium chloride. So this is easy, you know. Potassium is K1 plus and chloride is Cl1 minus. The valency by crisscross it becomes KCl. Okay, because both the valencies it gets cancelled, right? Both are same, it gets cancelled, it becomes KCl. One more important thing, when you write these symbols, especially in case of chlorine, you are not supposed to join the capital C and small l, because while writing in flow you when you write it very fast you join these two letters. So avoid doing that. C and L should be separately written. Okay. So next one, third one. Aluminium nitrate, the valency of aluminium. So now aluminium, if you recall, it is the 13th element in the periodic table. Its electronic configuration is 13. So electronic configuration will be, if atomic number is 13, electronic configuration will be 2, 8 and the third shell will have 3 electrons. So now this element wants to be stable like the nearest noble gas, that is again neon, 10, right? So it loses 3 electrons. So when it loses 3 electrons, its valency is Al3 plus. So Al3 plus, and then we have nitrate NO3 1 minus. Okay. So nitrate is a radical again with the valency NO3 1 minus. So aluminium nitrate Al3 plus and NO3 1 minus. So here you get the exchange of the valencies. Alright. So then how to write it now? Al NO3 thrice. Okay. Because it's already NO3 here. This is the valency which is interchanged, and this valency, this 3 goes for NO3. So it becomes Al NO3 thrice, aluminium nitrate. Al 3 plus, NO3 1 minus. Okay. Sodium chloride, very simple. Sodium Na plus and chloride is 1 minus. So it is NaCl. This is a very common example or common formula used. Okay. Next is calcium oxide. calcium is Ca2 plus, okay, the valency of calcium is Ca2 plus and oxide is O2 minus. So the two valencies gets cancelled, so it becomes calcium oxide, CaO, because of the cancellation of two similar valencies, it is CaO, okay. So now next one, ammonium sulfate. So let me erase this. Okay, ammonium sulfate. Now ammonium, it is nothing but NH4 1 plus, okay, NH4 1 plus and sulfate is SO4 2 minus. So you interchange, you will get it as NH4 twice, okay, this comes here, this goes here, NH4 twice SO4. Ammonium sulfate, alright. Next one, sodium carbonate, alright. So sodium carbonate is Na plus CO3 2 minus. So it is Na2CO3, alright. So these are few examples that I have given you so that you can recall how to write one chemical formula with the correct knowledge of the valencies, okay. So these formulas, I think it is sufficient. Lot more formulas you will be learning, okay. So this is only to recall whatever you have studied regarding writing a chemical formula. Okay. So now let us come back to the main topic, that is chemical reactions and equations. Now in our day-to-day life we have noticed several changes, isn't it? The food that we eat undergoes digestion, or we do respire, isn't it? We use the oxygen from the air for our respiration process. Then the food is being cooked, right? When we cook the food, we use different kinds of ingredients, isn't it? So then it is made into one yummy dish, right? So the cooking of the food, ripening of the fruit, burning of a paper, all these are the different types of changes that we observe. So in your lower classes you have already categorized these changes as physical as well as chemical changes. So I need not tell you once again what are these physical and chemical changes, as you already know about that. And if I give you a few examples, you are very much pretty much you know now how to differentiate between the physical as well as the chemical changes. So now why I am telling you about these two changes, because what we are going to learn, that is the chemical reactions, so they all come under a kind of change, isn't it, where we are going to mix some substances and produce some new substances. Just like as I gave you the example of cooking, different types of ingredients are mixed together and finally one favorite dish of yours is prepared, right? So outcome is different. What you are going to add in the beginning, they are completely different. They all join, combine together, react together and then form into one particular dish. So it's also a kind of reaction that takes place. So for instance, the example of digestion that I gave you, the food that we eat, okay, the food that we eat undergoes digestion. In the food you can find carbohydrates, there may be fat, isn't it? So some kind of biochemical reactions also takes place within our body, so that the entire food that we eat, whatever may be the type of food we eat, it is finally converted into glucose, right? So that glucose which is present in our body, it has been broken down by oxidation in case of respiration. So it is interlinked, they are very much related to each other. So they are also a kind of reaction which takes place within our body, whether it is internal or whether it is external. Reactions takes place in our body, as well as if you have to create something new or if you have to form new products, you are going to do some chemical tests, then you use some of the substances, you mix them and try to produce new substances. So that is what we call it as a chemical reaction. Okay, let me write the definition of chemical reaction for you all. Chemical reaction is a process in which okay, chemical reaction is a process in which one or more substances are transformed into new substances. So you already know about what is an element and what is a molecule and what is compound. So sometimes a reaction can happen between two elements, or sometimes a reaction can happen between an element and a compound as well as a compound, but ultimately what is the end product formed is a completely new substance formed from the two or more substances which react together. So that happens only when a chemical reaction takes place. Okay, so this is the definition of chemical reaction. So if you have to write it symbolically, then we can write it as when A plus B reacts, then it forms into C plus T. This is just a symbolic representation, and whenever we write an equation, you know, it will have a left hand side and a right hand side. So we can write it as LHS and the RHS. Okay. So the chemical reaction, whenever it is written, the first substances that we take, okay, they are said to be the reactants. So substances which we are using in the reaction, we call them as reactants. And the substances which are formed, the new substances which are formed when the reactants react with each other, we call them as the products. So let me give you one simple example of magnesium. Okay. So magnesium is actually a metal. Alright, so we can call it as a magnesium wire or magnesium ribbon. Usually it is called magnesium ribbon. What this ribbon has to be done is, using a sandpaper you have to thoroughly rub on this magnesium ribbon, and then you have to hold it to a flame. So this is a very beautiful reaction, just like how we use this firecrackers in our during our festival, right? So magnesium ribbon, if you hold it to the fire, so if I want to write a reaction on that, I am taking a magnesium ribbon, I am holding it to the flame. Okay. So that flame, if at all the reaction has to take place, then that has to take place in the presence of oxygen, isn't it? You know very well about the combustion, right? So if a substance has to be burned, then oxygen should be there, because oxygen is a supporter of combustion. So I take a magnesium ribbon and I hold it to the flame. When I hold it to the flame, a reaction begins. So let me write it as when magnesium reacts in the presence of oxygen, okay, or when magnesium is burnt in the presence of oxygen. So what I wrote here, they are the reactants, right? Magnesium reacting with oxygen. So whenever I write the reactants, so sometimes there will be two reactants, sometimes the reactant can be only one. One reactant can form into two or more products finally. So here I am having two reactants, but when I am writing a number of reactants, then always it should be separated with a plus mark. Okay, the two reactants or three reactants, how many, whatever you write, it should be separated by a plus mark, because this is being reacted with this, or this is being added to this. So that is why we write a plus mark. And then finally what we get is the outcome, that is the products, isn't it? So that is represented by using a arrow mark, okay, and this arrow mark, the arrowhead always faces towards the products or the substances, new substances that is going to be formed after this, okay, by this a new substance is being formed. So that is why a arrow mark which is headed towards the products is being shown. So it is separated, the reactants are products. Here also I have written the reactants and products are separated by a arrow mark. So now as I told you, magnesium and oxygen. So what happens in this reaction? The observation is, when magnesium ribbon is burnt in the presence of oxygen, the product formed is magnesium oxide. But how it is formed? The product formed is magnesium oxide. Okay, so you can see here. Now just as I gave you the example of the crackers being used in Diwali, okay. So when you hold this magnesium ribbon to the flame, it starts producing some sparkling, or you can call it as a white dazzling light, okay, white dazzling light. And finally the substance, because first thing I have taken a metal is a hard substance, isn't it, and it is burnt, and final product what is formed is, after you observe that dazzling light, is white powder. That means some new product is formed out of these two reactions. That is what we say in case of chemical change, isn't it? In case of physical change, once a substance is formed, it can be reformed again. But in case of chemical change, once it is formed, it cannot be recreated again. That is one of the differences between physical and chemical changes. Right. So here chemically the change has occurred, and a metal has turned to a white powder. That white powder itself is magnesium oxide. Okay, this is a metal reacting with oxygen and magnesium oxide. Actually, if you see, this belongs to the group of the base. Okay, magnesium oxide is formed. This is how a reaction happens, where the reactants will react forming into something very new, that is called the products. Okay, so here we have the reactants, and here what you frame at the end is completely the products. Okay, so one more example let me give you. Here magnesium is burnt in the presence of oxygen. Let me add two substances, okay, and see what happens. Let me take zinc. Okay, now here zinc is also a metal, alright. So let me take zinc and let me react it with sulfuric acid, or you say hydrochloric acid. So as I have I made you to recall some of the formulas. In the same manner, you must also be thorough about the formulas of certain acids as well. I will write over here, you can make a note of it. Hydrochloric acid HCl, okay, hydrochloric acid is written as HCl. Sulfuric acid, it is written as H2SO4, okay. Nitric acid, is written as HNO3. Phosphoric acid is written as H3PO4. I hope the last one is covered. Okay. H3PO4. Okay. So these are few acids, like one more is there, that is carbonic acid. H2CO3. Okay, make a list of these acids as you have to learn it now and then. Alright, so zinc reacts with dilute hydrochloric acid. Okay, I am writing this reaction now. And then what are the new products formed? I hope you have written this. Phosphoric acid, H3PO4. So that forms, okay, a new compound called as zinc chloride with the liberation of one gas, okay, here, that is hydrogen. Okay, it's a gas. Alright. So now zinc reacting with hydrochloric acid forming a zinc chloride and hydrogen. So how this zinc chloride is formed, how to make out that this product only has to be formed, these two reactants. So that is the, I know that is the common, the question that you have in your mind as to how to make out that this is only the product formed from these two reactants. So don't worry about that. In detail I will make you understand as to how to write the compound. So now for the time being we are only learning about the molecular formulas, that means the word equations we are writing. Once we start writing the equations using symbols or converting them into symbolic equation, then I will teach you how you can easily form the products from the reactants, how you can know that which product has to be formed from the reactants. Okay, so for today we have learnt only as to how the word equations are being written when one particular reaction take place. This is only to make you understand that when reactants are reacting, they form into new substances, that is the products, and the reactants are separated by a plus mark, and to show that the product is being formed, we have a arrow mark which faces towards the products, and then just like in the previous case we had only one product, but here we have two products, so I have again separated it using a plus mark. So I hope you have understood what is a chemical reaction and what happens in a chemical reaction, and when it is being reacted, if you want to represent it, then we have to represent it in the form of a chemical equation, and what are the rules to be applied when you write the chemical equation. So let me wind up today's session by making you understand about just introductory part of the chemical reactions and the equation. So in the next class we will learn in detail about the equations and how to balance the particular equation when it is not balanced. Okay students? Alright. So take care and bye-bye.